Donald Trump has been unpredictable from the start. And it can actually be an advantage that I think if the Iranian regime was not to take him seriously, they felt that they were maybe running the risks of having a strike. And therefore, I'm not convinced that the fate of the Iranian people is the priority for him, no more than the Venezuelan people were. I think he somehow, after the strike in Iran and the military operation in Venezuela, it has given him the assurance of the supremacy of the military, the American military special forces, and that he can count on them and have these incredibly striking operations that are so precise and without a bloodshed on the American side. So he's totally coherent with what he feels he can do, that he can keep threatening countries with a good reason. In the same way, Venezuela, he said it's to protect the American people from drugs and making money for ourselves. Greenland, it's about the security of the US. And Iran, it's to protect the Iranian people. But these are just excuses that he puts forward that obviously the rest of the world will agree with. But behind that, there is indeed, and that's, I'm coming to the reading that we have, which is incredibly complex. First, the neighbors, all the neighboring countries. I don't believe that any of them, if you start, are democracies, and therefore would be great fans of seeing a democratic regime taking over in Iran. I'm not sure that there will be kind of, great support for that. Saudi Arabia and all the others are in that. But there's also the price of petrol, petrol crisis, an escalation, because the Americans have one big interest, and it is Israel. And if you start a war with Iran and there is an escalation or retaliation against Israel, then you put your finger into something that can get out of hand. And then having Donald Trump brought into a war that it's okay to strike from the air, but it's not okay to send military personnel on the ground. He doesn't want that. So if you take the neighbors, petrol, which is a big thing for Donald Trump, the influence of Saudi Arabia, Turkey, who was fearing mass migration in case of a big collapse of the regime. If you put all these, pawns together, you see that it's a very, very complex situation. And I fully agree that it's not the end of it. There can be changes. And again, what I fear is that while the eyes of the world are on Iran, because even though there was a complete blackout, very successful communication, some pictures managed to get out. And in getting out, we saw, the extent of what was going on. That is that the people were being fired at with war, weapons of war.
So you're against military strikes, but are you in favor of stepped up sanctions? The European Union's been talking about... I
was coming to that slowly, sorry, but I was just trying to bring, because you ask, how
For
do
instance,
we view that in Paris?
Would you list the Revolutionary Guards as a terror group?
This is what we should do, of course. And there were questions to government. And unfortunately, the French minister, did not actually answer the way we wanted him to say publicly, yes, we will actually bring up more sanctions. We will target these people. Because while the eyes of the world are on Iran today, what will happen next week when we will be all centering our attention on Greenland or something else? Those people who are in prison can be tortured. Maybe they won't be hung publicly, but if they die in prison, what is the difference? So I think, what has happened there is for me, it's just a totalitarian regime that has put its population in an open prison, behind the borders, and is capable today of monitoring what they say, I mean, the cameras captured the people, the drones captured the sound and images, and people will continue being arrested now for weeks because they are totally under surveillance and they live in fear, except for those, of course, who will be demonstrating, and they have started pro-regime because of interest, because they work for the security forces and they know if there's a change of regime, they will be in big trouble. And for the people who have an interest in supporting the regime in place. But I fear what has happened should have made a major change for the population in Iran. And I'm afraid that the change may not happen now, and it will certainly not happen because there will be airstrikes or whatever. It never comes from the outside. It will come from the inside. And the hope that was given to the Iranian people to say, go out and do it, go to the end of it.
Which is what Trump said on Truth
Social. And it hasn't worked because from 150 rallies, I think a week ago, there's a couple now and maybe nothing. I mean, Donald Trump said, well, the killing has stopped. Well, he's stopping, which is not exactly the same.
Right.
So I think it's a good move. But at the same time, we have seen that the Iranian regime was capable of blocking out. It was a total blackout that happened. So whether it's Starlink or, the European communication system, I don't know if the
Starlink's
technology,
can be jammed.
But if the technology, because the Russians are working on that, and of course Europe is of great interest to the Russians, as you know, at the moment, will be obviously developing the technology to help blocking out, whatever we're using as well, because it's kind of in parallel. But there's just one point I would like to make and hear the experts, because I'm not from Iran. But the question that we have is that if there was a leader who could actually bring together these various movements, because it started there, the riots started on the price of food and the inflation and so on.
The merchants, the buzzards.
But yes, but on that, the students, women movements, a lot of movements for all different reasons came and made this overall, uprising that we saw. But I think it will make it much easier if there was a leadership that could actually bring these movements together and maybe be helped to indeed replace the regime in place. Because at the moment, there's nobody that, and maybe there is, but we don't know that person, and it should maybe be somebody out of Iran, but somebody who's actually living in the country and actually knows what is happening, is, living the reality of the people there, and the fact that Iran, under 40 years, has been, under this kind of iron shield, So I'd like to know if there is hope that indeed we could have somebody, not the Shah's son, or, somebody say, oh yeah, it could be him. No, somebody who really can carry that and carry the people of Iran.
So
it's a fantastic people forward.
The
problem is that when you have a regime such as the one of the mullah in Iran, there's no opposition that can actually exist. It is crushed. People are put into prison, eliminated, corrupted, whatever way.
Should France break diplomatic relations with Iran?
So therefore, it
Should
is very
France break
difficult to
diplomatic
feel
relations with Iran?
Well, not France. Europe, yes, should do something. We're talking about Donald Trump as the president of a company who is hiring or not director general, of the company. He likes the person, he doesn't like the person. It's like an interview, the person is nice, but don't think she can do the job, so we might look for somebody else. But what world are we in today that we delegate to the one leader, okay, the United States of America, but it's not the only country in the world, the function to appoint leaders in other countries, maybe to serve the American interest, and that would be, this is what we're discussing here, Should this person be to the liking of Donald Trump and therefore he should be appointed? Don't we believe it's really absolutely ridiculous the way we're kind of looking at the world? We're talking about 90 million people who aspire to have a different life. Now, the question is, can it be organized with a leadership that will actually bring that change, and how can it actually concentrate all these different movements within the country? And I know it's a very complex country, but I think in the region, every country is complex, and we have to, that's why in Europe, we have to have a thinking of you do it the way it should be done, because we cannot apply the way we would be doing it, because it's just different.
Impose it from,
so when
from
you
the
say
outside.
yes, Europe should put pressure, but Europe or France can only entice a change to the liking of the people and stop the killings of the people, the massacres, and put pressure on the regime to stop doing it. But from the outside, it's very difficult when you have this total blockage of everything.